America has elected its 45th president. Donald Trump speaks.
Missouri election results with the Caleb Rowden win in a very tight election.
And a look at local seats, including the Boone County Commission. Good morning. Today is Wednesday, November 9th, 2016. Thanks for waking up with us or staying up with us. I'm Megan Judy.
And I'm Emma Reckenberg.
And I'm Tim Schmidt. Yeah, a lot of people still probably up this morning,
right,
tracking all the election stuff.
Results.
It was exciting stuff.
How could you go to sleep?
Very busy.
Well, some people had to work. Yeah, but otherwise, crazy stuff and crazy weather stuff going on. Our first widespread frost trying to set in over northwestern Missouri this morning. We have frost advisories in effect for Sheraton and Macon counties until 9 a.m. this morning. Tomorrow morning, the Ozarks are going to be under frost advisories until 9 a.m. So cold temperatures trying to set on into the state. Right now, yeah, we're back in the 30s in some areas. 39 in Columbia. We're at 40 in Jefferson City, 39 at Lake Ozark. Brunswick checking in at 39 degrees. Way up in Chillicothe, that is an official number. Yes, 32 degrees up in the northwestern corner of the state. It is cold outside in most areas. With that mostly clear sky today, we'll see lots of sunshine. Temperatures going to struggle to warm to 60 degrees.
All right, thank you very much.
At 1:32, the AP calls Donald Trump the next president of the United States.
For the AP, a Trump win in Wisconsin put him over the top.
Clinton campaign chair John Podesta says Hillary Clinton will not speak until later today after calling to concede to Trump early this morning. At 1:48, Trump, with Vice President-elect Mike Pence and his family, addressed America.
I pledge to every citizen of our land that I will be president for all Americans. And this is so important to me.
Trump has pledged to act quickly to repeal Obama's landmark health care law, revoke America's nuclear agreement with Iran, and rewrite important trade deals with other countries, particularly Mexico and Canada. The win for Missouri governor goes to the Republicans.
Eric Greitens defeated Democrat Chris Koster. KOMU 8's Tyler Emery was at Greitens' watch party all night long and now joins us live in the studio to recap the race last night.
Emma and Megan, it really was an unusual race. Just a few months ago, polls had Koster winning, but then just before the election, Greitens picked up momentum, and he actually took that momentum to win. I was in Chesterfield all night, and his supporters really were excited, especially as Greitens spoke to them after the announcement of his victory. Both Greitens and Koster spoke to the crowds at their respective watch parties, and each believed cooperation between both parties is necessary moving forward.
Let us be humble, let us be welcoming, and let's let everyone who worked for Chris Koster know that we aim to serve them as well. We're going to serve them as well.
Government is a synonym we use in place of the word cooperation. If we fail to cooperate as Missourians, we will find no path forward.
Koster conceded just as the Greitens campaign announced the candidate's victory at a little after 10:30 last night. The excitement at the Greitens campaign watch party lasted for quite a bit longer before people began to clear out. In the newsroom, Tyler Emery, KOMU 8 News.
Voters in Boone and Cooper counties picked Republican Caleb Rowden to be the next state senator of the 19th district. It was a battle of popular state reps, with Rowden beating Stephen Weber. Rowden will replace term-lifted Kurt Schaefer. Rowden said there are many items on his primary agenda, ranging from boosting business to ethics reform. He says his main focus will be on the University of Missouri.
I think the number one priority we have, especially given this community, is making sure that our education, public and higher ed, is moving forward in the right direction, that it's fully funded.
Whoever's the senator and whoever is are the representatives to come together and say, hey, look, we're gonna articulate a narrative that says Mizzou's stabilized. We have a new president. We're gonna have some new curators after this new governor is in place, and we're gonna have to tell their story really well and tell it as often as possible.
Rowden will join fellow Republican Denny Hoskins as a new member of the state Senate.
Republican Josh Hawley is Missouri's next Attorney General. Hawley beat his Democratic rival Teresa Hensley by nearly 20 percentage points, giving him a clear mandate.
Well, I think we need to do two things. I think we need to stand up to the Washington dysfunction and the Washington establishment that is threatening Missouri, stifling Missouri, holding Missouri back. And we also need to stand up to the corruption in Missouri politics in both parties. And I'm independent. I'm proud to say that I've been opposed by the political establishment of both parties. I'm kind of proud of that. And I'll be an independent voice for Missouri.
After he won the election, Hawley's campaign attributed its success to supporters' willingness to spread the word about a, quote, grassroots campaign.
Turning to who will control the U.S. Senate for the next 2 years, Republicans will. Coming into Election Day, Republicans controlled 54 seats. An expected loss in Illinois took them down to 53, but Democrats failed to turn Republican seats blue in North Carolina, Wisconsin, and here in Missouri. The AP called Missouri's Senate race shortly before 1 a.m., with Roy Blunt, the incumbent, beating Jason Kander. Republicans will maintain their 6-year control over the U.S. House of Representatives. GOP candidates triumphed in a checkerboard of districts in Florida, Virginia, and elsewhere that Democrats had hoped Donald Trump's comments about women and Hispanics would make them their own. The GOP also retained seats in Minnesota, New York, Colorado, Iowa, and Wisconsin. Democrats were looking to flip. Both had anticipated Democrats would cut into the historic GOP majority by perhaps a dozen seats, but that did not happen. And coming up after the break, Missouri voters had quite a few amendments and propositions to work through with the polls. Landon Burke will be in to tell us what passed and what did not.
Missouri's U.S. Senate race is one of the most important in the country. Tune in after the break to find out what it means for Missouri and the rest of the country.
Time now is 4:36. This is KOMU 8 News coverage you can count on.
Live Doppler 8 First Alert weather.
All right, welcome back. It's 4:39 on this Wednesday morning, the day after Election Day, and well, it's a cold start for many folks out across the state this morning. Temperatures back in the 30s over northern Missouri, even near the freezing point. Right now, there's a live look over the Lake of the Ozarks. That shot brought to you by your Heart of Missouri Chevy dealer. Here's a look at those frost advisories in effect over northern Missouri. It includes part of mid-Missouri, too. Sheraton, Macon counties, you're under that frost advisory until 9 a.m. this morning. This is kind of the first widespread frost that's going to try to set in here so far this fall season here into mid-Missouri. Today we'll have those frost advisories up that way. Tomorrow morning, those are going to be more so over the Ozarks for tomorrow morning too. So if you have any plants that are kind of sensitive to a little bit of that cooler weather outside, bring those in or at least cover those up. They should be okay. Expected temperatures this morning should be in the 30s, right about where they're at right now. Currently 40 degrees in Columbia and in Jefferson City. You notice 39 in Macon. Way back in Chillicothe, it is 32 degrees being reported out that way. Wouldn't be surprised to see a lot of very rural areas this morning under that clear sky, falling to near the freezing point up that way. 42 there in Warsaw and in Versailles, and in Sedalia at this time too. High pressure continues to build in over the midsection of the country. That's going to be a dominant feature here over the next few days. Lots of sunshine expected, and it's going to draw in that nice cool Canadian breeze here well into the weekend. We're probably talking until Sunday to see mostly sunny skies. Here's a look at our precipcast through the morning hours. Up until noon today, temperatures quickly rebounding thanks to that sunshine. By noon, right around 56 to 57 degrees. And then this afternoon, topping out almost to near 60. That wind will start to shift out from the south and west tonight. That'll help draw in a little bit of moisture out over the Ozarks for a little bit of that patchy frost to develop tomorrow morning. Expected temperatures are going to be in the mid-30s tomorrow. It's going to be chilly outside. By the afternoon, full sunshine. We're going to get back into the mid-60s by the 3 and 4 o'clock hours. Here's a look at our forecast this morning. Cool outside. You'll want jackets, maybe even a light coat out there. 38 will be that temperature as you head out the door. 55 by noon. We're going to top things out near 60 this afternoon. Here's a look at your evening forecast. It's going to be a chilly one if you are headed out this evening. Grab the coats. You'll want those. Clear skies. Patchy frost over the Ozarks will be setting in. 40 will be your overnight low temperature. And then headed into your next couple of days, patchy frost. That's going to be a possibility on Thursday. The temperatures, for the most part, outside of tomorrow are going to be in the 50s for Friday, Saturday, and even into Sunday potentially. Then Monday rolls around and, well, next week looks like we're back into the 60s for a brief time and maybe even a little bit of chance for rain by Tuesday and Wednesday.
Here in mid-Missouri, a political watch party supporters stuck it out until the very end to watch Donald Trump become the 45th president of the United States. People at the Boone County Republican Watch Party stuck around until nearly 2 a.m. to cheer on the Republican candidate. One man says he was willing to stay as long as he needed to watch Trump take the stage.
I was a Cruz supporter for a long time, but I realized that we just couldn't put up with 4 years of Hillary Clinton. And I became a Trump supporter, and here I am, just as happy as a clam tonight.
People showed up to the watch party around 7 p.m. to also watch the Republicans sweep the local races as well.
The Boone County Democrats had a disappointing night with only a few big wins in mid-Missouri. The watch party ended early and people gathered in the foyer in tears after listening to Republican Eric Greitens' acceptance speech. Democratic Senate hopeful Stephen Weber chose to leave the party and spend time with his family and forego a concession speech. One former state senator says losing is more horrible than winning is wonderful.
There's nothing you can say. If you lose an election, it's a pain that is indescribable, and you just have to wait for the pain to go away. It's terrible.
This is the first year Ken Jacobs, who you just heard from, hasn't been on the ballot since the 1980s. Despite Kip Kendrick's win that placed him in the Missouri House, he said the night was disappointing because of all the Democratic losses. Republican incumbent Roy Blunt and Democratic challenger Jason Kander went head-to-head for a U.S. Senate seat.
This race was one of the most important in deciding which party would have control of the Senate. KOMU 8's Luis Rodriguez joins us live in studio to tell us a little bit more.
So it was one of the most exciting races in all of the elections last night, and we were expecting to have a close one. And so what we got here is Roy Blunt won to regain a seat in the Senate after a highly contested race against Democratic opponent Jason Kander. Roy Blunt won by under 100,000 votes, and he thanked his supporters for going to the polls and voting. Meanwhile, Jason Kander spoke to his supporters and encouraged them to look forward to the future, emphasizing there's still progress to be made.
Hundreds of thousands of calls were made. I think we set records on what we could do to identify and turn out voters, and our 100,000 or so vote margin at this moment would indicate we're glad to have every single one of those voters that turned out today.
This is a generation that is capable of greatness, and it is a numerous generation, and it has a lot of work left to do. Thank you. Stay with it. Thank you.
Roy Blunt's win, along with other Republican wins for U.S. Senate throughout the country, secured a majority for the Republican Party in the Senate, which now holds at least 51 seats with at least one race still pending. In the studio, Luis Rodriguez, KOMU 8 News.
All right, Luis, thanks. Blaine Luetkemeyer, incumbent U.S. representative from Missouri's 3rd Congressional District, won in Tuesday night's election. He won with 68% of the vote against his Democratic opponent. The win marks the beginning of his 3rd term in the 3rd District office, which he's held since 2013. Luetkemeyer told KOMU 8 News that as a Republican, he is pleased with the results.
I'm excited. I think, I had a big win, and I think Senator Blunt had a big win. We got a new governor. As a Republican, that for us is a big deal here in the state of Missouri.
Luetkemeyer was joined in Jefferson City by his wife, children, and grandchildren. In addition to the public offices up for elections, Missouri's also had the chance to vote on amendments and propositions. KOMU 8's Landon Burke is here with those figures for this morning.
And thank you. Missourians voted on a series of ballot measures, one of them being Amendment 4. 57% of voters approved Amendment 4 last night. Missourians chose to prohibit a new sales tax on any transaction that had been exempted since January 1st of 2015. Missourians also voted to impose a limit on campaign contributions to political parties, committees, and candidates for state and judicial offices. Amendment 2 was approved by a 70% margin of the vote. Proposition A was shot down by the popular vote. 55% of voters chose to reject the proposition. That means there will not be an increase in cigarette taxes to help fund transportation and infrastructure projects. Voters also passed on Amendment 3, as in they did not pass the amendment. It would have increased taxes on cigarette packs to 60 cents by the year 2020 and imposed an additional fee on tobacco wholesalers. Those proceeds would have gone to an early childhood trust fund, but critics argue there were too many strings attached. Those in favor of Amendment 3 said the fight, despite losing, was well worth it.
Oh, definitely. Our team is so excited. I mean, we were really underdogs from the very beginning. I'm a mother. I believe in this just because it was something that was very powerful for my family and my children.
Last night we reached out to one of the amendment's opponents, Ron Leone, with the MPCA. He said, quote, "We trust common sense, conservative Missouri voters to make the right choice, and thus we are cautiously optimistic," end quote. Amendment 6, also known as the controversial voter ID law, passed here in Missouri. That means voters will now have to show valid ID proving their citizenship and residency at the polls. Now, this was a hot topic among Columbia voters yesterday. A few Democrats said they think anybody who lives here should be allowed to vote with or without identification. Here's why one Republican said Amendment 6 was the #1 issue on the ballot.
Because there have been instances of voter fraud across the country, and voter fraud, when it happens, delegitimizes people's right to vote, and I think that anything we can do to help ensure the sanctity of the process is a good thing.
Zweifel says local Republicans highly anticipated these results, and they were confident Amendment 6 would pass all along. A few other Republicans at that same watch party said this has been a long-time goal of theirs, and all their work has finally paid off. Amendment 1 was also approved. The 0.1 sales tax used for soil and water conservation, as well as state parks, will continue for the next 10 years. 80% of Missouri voters chose to continue that tax. That's all for now. Back to you guys at the desk.
New this morning, both Democrats and Republicans will be represented in the Boone County Commission. Republican Fred Perry and Democrat Janet Thompson won their seats for District 1 and 2 Commissioner, respectively. Thompson and Perry have different issues they would like to tackle in their first days of office.
I would like to get the Boone County Fairgrounds back open to the public and make that a multifaceted recreation complex for the citizens of Columbia and Boone County.
Next year, the first thing on the agenda is getting the road and bridge tax renewal passed. So those things, I think, we have to have good infrastructure, and we have to do better by the people of Boone County.
Thompson has already served on the commission for 4 years and will continue to serve alongside Dan Atwell and newly elected Fred Perry. We'll be back after the break.
Welcome back. Here's the check of our weather on your 8. So we do have frost advisories in effect over northwestern Missouri. It's mainly due to those clear skies and that cool air setting in this morning. Take a look at your satellite and radar. Very clear skies, and we're going to have that condition for probably through Sunday. Frost advisories over Sheraton and Macon County until 9 a.m. and then those advisories will be over southern Missouri tomorrow. Temperatures anywhere from the freezing point over northern Missouri to near 40 degrees in Columbia. That day planner, we'll get out of the 30s today, back up to 60 this afternoon.
Marijuana won big on Election Day. Of the 9 states that voted on legalizing marijuana, results show 6 states are now legalizing it. Recreational marijuana passed in California, Massachusetts, and Nevada, while medical marijuana became legal in Arkansas, Florida, and North Dakota. West Virginia Democratic Senator Joe Manchin, a state that overwhelmingly went Republican, will continue to caucus with Democrats. Politico reported a source said Manchin has no intent of caucusing with Republicans. Manchin said earlier Tuesday he might become a Republican if the Senate is evenly split. Manchin is a conservative-leaning Democrat in his overwhelmingly conservative state. He's up for re-election in 2018. There's a new sheriff in Maricopa County, Arizona. Retired Phoenix Police Sergeant Paul Penzone defeated controversial incumbent Joe Arpaio to win the sheriff's job. Arpaio was seeking a 7th term as sheriff and was one of the leading voices of tough immigration policies, not only in his county and state, but also nationwide. The Columbia City Council
is hoping to boost more businesses owned by minorities and women with a new policy. It's part of the city's strategic plan for more participation of minority and women-owned businesses through city contracts. A local business owner says the new policy will bring a lot of benefits for local small business owners.
Well, I think that it's going to be beneficial because it'll be able to open the doors for smaller companies that are up and coming like us to be able to sit at the table and to get a chance to bid on jobs that are larger than we've had before.
Business owners will also be encouraged to become certified as a minority or women-owned business through the Missouri Office of Equal Opportunity or the Missouri Department of Transportation.
Global market